welcome to Bet On It. It is NFL Week 10. I am Kelly Stewart at Kelly in Vegas. And before we get to those primetime games with Marco and Joe, we wanted to let our Bet On It listeners get a little sneak peek on the next Customer Appreciation Day, Wednesday, November 15th, wagertalk.com. Each handicapper will have a play up for just $5. Let's bring in Marco D'Angelo and Joe Raineri for some of those primetime games. Yeah, this one's gross. Thursday, Carolina at Chicago. Chicago, a 3.5-point favorite. Total 38.5 as it stands Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. It looks like no Justin Fields for the Bears, Marco, but I'm not sure that makes much of a difference.
Yeah, it's a real stink bomb of a game, Kelly. There's no other way to look at it. Both teams are coming off losses last week. Both are very misleading losses and both are very ugly losses. You look at Chicago last week, they played the Saints and they lost by 7, 24-17. They did get the cover as they were getting plus 8.5 or 9, but you look at that game, they had 5 turnovers in that game. You're never going to win a football game with 5 turnovers. And when you're -5, you're definitely not going to do it. And yet they still were only 7 points away from the Saints. So either you got to give them credit for hanging tough, or you got to look at the Saints and say, what was up with that? How did you not pull away? And then, not to be outdone, Carolina out-yarded Indianapolis last week, but they had 3 turnovers in that game, 2 of them very costly, as Bryce Young must have been colorblind because he threw 2 pick sixes, identical looking plays, and that was the difference of the ball game. They lost by 14 points. So if you had Carolina in any form, which I know a couple people on this show had some teasers with them, that was pretty ugly. So we will look at this one this week, and which way do we go? Do I want to take Chicago and lay points? No, I do not. Do I really trust Carolina getting points? No, I do not. But when in doubt, I have a little model. There's 3 things that can happen in a game when you bet it. The favorite can win and cover. The dog can win outright, or the dog can lose but cover. So 2 out of 3 says the dog's the better way to go. And as Meatloaf once said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. That's the way I'm heading with this one. I am going to go ahead, take Carolina, plus the points, close my eyes, hold my nose when I walk to the window, and bet the Carolina Panthers. Does anybody walk to the window anymore, Kelly? We just go on the app and make the bet.
No, we even in Florida now, we finally have a phone app, and that's where we go to, Marco. Nobody walks to the window, I guess, unless, of course, you're in Vegas. And even then, I still just deposit money and put in my app and sit in the booth and ask John Murray to comp pizza. All jokes aside, I'm with you. I lean towards the Panthers here as well, whether it's Badgett or Fields. As I mentioned, it looks like it will be Badgett in this one. I don't think it really matters, Joe. You and I both had Bryce Young in teasers last week, and that was disgusting. I don't really trust them either. So we going under? I mean, this total's been dropping since we made this graphic.
Like I'm busted out in hives here listening to Marco describe that wonderful performance by Bryce Young and Carolina last week. And the reality is, listen, uncertainty and all for both of these teams. Here's what we do know for a fact. The primetime unders on Thursday night are a 75% clip to the under. It's been absolute money to back the unders on Thursday nights. It's the way it is. Our good friend Ralph Michaels, the stat daddy, he came out a couple of weeks ago on this show and gave you guys the numbers. Nothing has changed. Didn't help last week, another under, in fact, with Tennessee and Pittsburgh. And here we are with 2 more wonderful teams that, yeah, I'd be wrong. Can't wait to just turn this game on and then proceed to throw up, as the football will be some of the worst we've seen all year. Now, having said that, I do think they figured out a few things, not with Bryce Young, but maybe they can run the ball there a little bit with Sanders now. I think Carolina, I think that's the key. I think they have to establish the running game. And they should be able to do that against this Chicago Bears defense. And I also think, listen, Chicago, no matter who the quarterback is, and I can make the argument that Badgett's been a more effective quarterback for this Chicago team than Fields. So maybe it would be better for him to start. I do think it would be better for the total if he starts here. We're at the point, though, with both of these defenses. Burns got hurt last week. He's out. That secondary is a mess now for Carolina. Injuries on that defensive side make me less want to back Carolina in this spot. It makes me want to say, hey, listen, we know right up until kickoff, guess what? Everyone's going to run to the window and bet, right? Because it's a trend until it isn't. And I think maybe, just maybe, the defenses are so ugly and disgusting, maybe we get more than the 38 and a half points that are going to go there, and all of a sudden this trend is bye-bye now. So I lean towards the over just because both of these teams are disgusting on the defensive side of the ball. And I think, why not on a Thursday night? I do hope Badgett plays, though, for the over. If it's Fields, yeah, I would lean towards the under.
Yeah, either way, I think we see at least 2 turnovers in this game, which helps bode Joe's over. Marco, actually, I'm not kicking it back to Marco. I'm kicking it back to Joe. But Marco alluded to how disgusting Thursday night was. Sunday's not any better. I don't know why they didn't flex this, but they did not. New York Jets at Las Vegas. This one's kind of been all over the place. Right now, Jets minus 1.5. Total 36.5. I teased Vegas. That's it. My job here is done. I want nothing else to do with this game, Joe Raineri.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do, because I want absolutely nothing to do with Hackett, Zach Wilson, any combination. I think maybe Coach Sean Payton was onto something. Remember in the beginning of the year when he said, Hackett sucks in so many words? I'm paraphrasing. Yeah, turns out he was spot on, not just a terrible head coach. Unless Aaron Rodgers is apparently the quarterback, he is absolutely 100% useless, and so is this offense. But Aiden O'Connell, they're smoking cigars, they won a game, they're partying. For some reason, until somebody, I think, let them know you're still the Raiders and you still blow. But I do think there is an opportunity and a way to bet this game in which you take the Jets offense out of it. And that is by backing the team total under at whatever number it is for the Raiders. The one thing we know this Jets team will do is make life a living hell for Aiden O'Connell and this offense. There will not be, short of punt returns or pick sixes by Zach, short of that, points are going to be extremely hard to come by for the Raiders. So I would much rather take the Jets offense out of it and simply wait for whatever that number is on the Raiders team total. I am looking to bet the under, and I don't care what the Jets do or don't do on offense at that point. Give me the team total under for the Raiders. I'll back the Jets defense.
All right, back in the Jets defense. Marco, you're the lowly hometown guy now. This is now your team. It's no longer the Steelers. Tell me what your thoughts are on the Raiders coming off that win and how they're going to fare against that Jets defense.
Kelly, I thought we were friends. What are you throwing the Raiders on to me for? What did I do to you?
Awful.
First of all, hey, I want to point out that on that graphic, we had the Raiders as the favorite. They're not the favorite. The Jets are the favorite. But once this line moving, they might be the favorite by Sunday night, as this line is down to the Jets -1. And yes, if you can get it at 1.5, the move is looking at taking the Raiders on the teaser. But as we do know, wherever this ends up, you want to tease it over the touchdown. Whichever team is the dog that you can get it is a proper teaser. Now, what I am going to point out, 2 things about this game. First of all, yeah, this is a real, dog, what type of game to have to watch. But it's a slight upgrade from what we're going to watch on Thursday. But if you're feeling bad about watching this game, just remember, you're not Mark Davis watching this game. Because while he's watching this game, he has to remember he is paying both John Gruden and Josh McDaniels millions and millions of dollars still for firing those two coaches while they had long contracts. So it's not real good to be Mark Davis. What we did see last week, and fortunately for me, I gave it to my clients, this Raider team responded to the firing. They wanted no part of Josh McDaniels. They lost the locker room. It was worse than anybody led on to know. Here being in Vegas and talking to a lot of people, I knew how bad it was, and they were absolutely ecstatic when he got fired. And you saw that in the way they performed Sunday. But granted, it was against the Giants. And if there's a team that was as dysfunctional this year as the Raiders were, it probably is the New York Giants. Now we'll see if we can carry that momentum over for a second week. I'm not going to step in front of the Raiders. I lean to the Raiders in this game. And as long as I can get the Raiders plus points, I will have the Raiders in teasers. This is one of those adages, and it's good in all professional sports. When they fire a manager or a coach, you take that team in the first game. If they win that game in the first game, you continue to bet them until they lose. That's just the thing that you do, especially in baseball where you get to play consecutive days. I'm on the Raiders. It's a weak vote. I don't know if I get there for my clients on Sunday, but this is not the same team that you saw earlier in the year. Just look at Max Crosby, what he did. They had 8 sacks last week. He had 3 of them. Take the Las Vegas Raiders minus Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, Marco, I'm still kicking myself for not playing on the Raiders last week. That should be an automatic play. Speaking of automatic, this is an automatic play for me, but you're going to have to wait until the end of the show. Denver at Buffalo. Buffalo, a 7.5-point favorite. Joe Raineri, total 46. Give me your thoughts on Monday Night Football.
I do think here, Cal, this is the Buffalo team has got some issues here. We know about the defensive side of the ball there. We know the issues, and they tried to address it at the trade deadline. But that has nothing to do, and that is no excuse for this offense to be as bad and as inconsistent as they have been. Kind of crazy that we're having a conversation with the Buffalo Bills and they kind of have the same. I mean, look at the record right now and look at just how they're 0-5 against the number. They are burning money for backers here left and right this season, and not necessarily so much because of all the defensive issues. Is this offense can't seem to figure it out. I don't know if the shoulder is an issue for Josh Allen. There's something going on with this offense, the Bills, that makes them very untrustworthy in a full game. I trust the Denver offense, as crazy as it is. I think I have a better feel for what we're going to get from Denver offensively than what we're going to get from Buffalo. But having said that, I do think both of these offenses will have some success early in this game. I don't want anything to do with the full game because I've watched Buffalo go into the half and come out and not be able to have a clue. The teams make adjustments, and all of a sudden they can't score again in the second half. I don't think that's going to be the problem here. I think both these teams will get enough points early for this one to go up and over in the first half. I'll bank on at least some touchdowns and a few field goals in this one early on.
Marco, what I can tell you is that I teased Buffalo earlier in the week down to below a field goal at home. What are your thoughts on that teaser leg, and who do you like in this one?
Well, Kelly, I'm there with you on the teaser leg, and I hope you guys listened last week with Buffalo when we said to tease them up, put all your teasers hooking to Buffalo on Sunday night, and then come back with some Cincinnati money line. That was a nice little middle that fell right in the middle. Guess what? We got the same situation this week, except Buffalo, we're teasing them down to just win the game, and then we can look come Monday night, see where this line settles, where we can get Denver plus points and have a nice middle. The one thing I'm going to say about Buffalo, there's 2 things that have happened this year like clockwork. They seem to stub their toe in the big games. Josh Allen finds a way to throw an interception at an ill-advised time. And when they have a bad game, they come back and win. If you go back to the first game of the season, they lost on Monday Night Football in New York. They came back with a big win over the Raiders. Granted, it was the Raiders. They lost to Jacksonville over in London. What'd they do? They come back, an ugly one, but they got the win against the Giants. They lost to New England. They come back, got the win against Tampa. Got close at the end, but they got the win. So by teasing them down and looking for them to get the win, that's what I'm doing here. That's where I'm going to go in this one. Take the teasers. Denver, I just don't know what to think. They've played well the last 2 weeks. They've held their last 3 opponents to 19, 17, and 9 points. The Kansas City win, was that a case of Kansas City had already beaten them earlier in the season? And they had the game in Germany up next and looked past them. I don't know. But Sean Payton, we know he's a good coach. He'll keep them around. This, to me, is a great opportunity, I think, for us to use this game to make money both ways. And that's the way I am looking to attack it.
All right. These glasses, they're not here for my eye protection. They're here because it is time for the guy with the pen. Let's bring him on in, Ralph Michaels. There's the stat daddy, Ralph Michaels, at CalSportsLV on Twitter. Let's give a little plug to your son, Jeff, because he's been putting together some nerd charts of his own. We're calling them streakers. Who do we have for this week in the NFL, Ralph?
Well, take a look. Jacksonville, 5 straight ATS covers. The Bengals and the Vikings, 4 straight covers. And the Buffalo Bills with 5 straight ATS losses. Is there any surprise there's no overstreakers? Not in the NFL this season. Giants, 7 straight unders. Chargers and Steelers, 6 straight. KC, 5 straight. Green Bay, 4 straight unders. And Kelly, I'm just going to throw a little segue into here. Over-unders last week in the NFL, 3 overs, 11 unders. On the season now, if you blindly played every NFL game under the total, you have cashed 61.5% of your games. And I broke down home between the threes, home favorites, and home dogs. When you have a tightly contested game and the home team, the line is between the threes, so they're from +3 to -3, 65.6% of those games have gone under the 10, under the total, which makes perfect sense in a close competitive game in this NFL season of unders.
Just absolutely incredible. And just keep on cashing. Make sure you guys are following Jeff at JM Sports CLE so you do not miss out on any of his streakers that he also posts on the Wager Talk Instagram channel. Ralph, I don't know why we've never done this chart before. As the queen of the long teasers that I hammer every single week, we finally have put together a Wong teaser chart, and I'm a little nervous.
Well, you know, you look at it, and the numbers aren't bad. Now, let's be very specific. People talk about wanting to cover 3 and 7s. So the Wong teasers are very specific. You have a dog of +1.5, +2, or +2.5. Therefore, the teaser is taking you over 3 and over 7. The Wong teasers also say you play a favorite of -7.5, -8, or -8.5 to get below the 3-point and the 7-point threshold. So, one thing that has changed, Kelly, from the good old days, teasers used to be +100 at some places at Pinnacle. Then they're -110. And then these teasers really blew up for a couple years. And now every book is -120. We even see some books -130. So if you go to the bar and say, what percentage of teasers have to hit? What percentage of those teams have to hit for you to have a profitable teaser? So many people don't know. And really, if you're laying -110, you have to cover 72.5% of those individual plays. At -120, it's about 75%. So there's a big difference there. So let's take a look. The blue on the top are +1.5 to +2.5, teasing it up to +7.5 to +8.5. In the middle, you see the teaser percentage record since 2015. 77.2%. So they still are slightly profitable, even if you're laying 120. But I broke down home and away, Kelly. Take a look at the road record. When you have an away dog of +1.5 to +2.5 and you tease it, you have actually covered 83%. So home teams have actually been below the Mendoza line, but if you are teasing road dogs up, 83% is a positive mark, so that has been good. On the right-hand side, you see I put this year as well. This is just 2023. You see that away dogs teased up have actually gone 11-2, 84.6%, so positive. Now let's look on the bottom. These are taking favorites and teasing them down. Since 2015, 82.5%. So you've been much better taking favorites and teasing them down under minus a field goal. And again, home and away broken down, home teams 80.2 positive, but taking away teams of minus 7.5 or minus 8.5 and teasing them down 88.6%. So what does it tell us? The teasers overall have lost some value laying the extra juice. But clearly, if you're looking at long teasers, road teams significantly better, both teasing up and teasing down.
Just for some quick clarification, Ralph, we all know that I prefer those ones with lower totals under 44.5. Specifically, this was just every single play across the board that could go through 3 and 7 in either direction, correct?
This is every team, every total, plus 1.5 to 2.5 up, minus 7.5 to minus 8.5 down. So again, Kelly, great point, because if you're taking those dogs on a game that you expect to be lower scoring, I'll tell you what I will do, Kel. In the guide that I download for free, I will put in total parameters on both of these, and we'll see exactly what happens with totals 42 or less, 42 to 48, and 48.5 and higher. So download the guide on Thursday morning, and I'll have that added info for you as well.
WT.buzz/RM, so you guys can get the nerd charts and all of Ralph's guides over at his Wager Talk homepage. Ralph, you have 4 systems for us this week. Week 10 of NFL. Boy, does time fly when you're talking trends and angles. Let's hear them.
Well, the first, we're going to start with teams off a loss as a home dog that scored 20 points or less, playing a non-division game, and now they're a small away dog from +1 to +5. Who does that apply to? It's a Thursday night application on the Carolina Panthers. Those teams have gone 24-8, so not a huge sample size since 2014, but they've covered 75%. So again, that's playing on a team that's off a loss as a home dog that scored 20 points or less, a non-division game, and they're now a small away dog. System 1, play on Carolina. System 2, well, now we're fading a team that's a small home favorite up to -5.5. So we're fading a team that's off an away loss weeks 2 through 13 since 2018, and they're a home favorite up to -5.5. Well, that applies to 2 teams this week. 31.1% is the fade ATS record. It says fade the Bears and fade the Buccaneers. So the first 2 systems, System 1 says play on Carolina. System 2 says to fade the Bears. Guess what? We have a dual system with both sides saying Carolina, but I do want to mention we had a dual system last week on the Giants, and it did lose to the Raiders. So just because we have 2 systems, one on one side, one against the other team, doesn't make it an automatic play. System 3, you have a good team. Win percentage over 60% from week 8 and higher. This goes all the way back to 2011. You're off a loss of 22 or more. So who does this apply to? Seattle's the team that has a win percentage over 60%. They, of course, got crushed against the Ravens. Week 8 and higher? How about this one, Kelly? 78.1% against the spread system on Seattle. Does it make sense? Sure. You're off a loss and you still have a win percentage 60% or higher. We're week 8 of the season, so we know it's a legitimate good team. You're embarrassed off that huge loss. A system to me that does clearly make sense as to play on Seattle. And FYI, That system has also gone under the total 62.5%. Again, that's Seattle and Washington this week. And the final one, we just talked about Seattle getting blown out. How about a team on positive momentum? Well, there's one team in the NFL that has won back-to-back games by at least 14 points. This goes back to 2018. It's that simple. There's no other parameters. You're off back-to-back wins by 14 or more points, like the Chargers are against the Lions. Those teams like the Chargers going back to 2018 have gone 44 and 65, only 40.4%. So almost a 60% fade situation on the Chargers. System 1 on Carolina. System 2, fade the Bears and the Buccaneers. System 3, play on the embarrassed Seahawks. And System 4, those teams off back-to-back wins by 2 touchdown pluses, a fade situation on the LA Chargers.
Oh boy, Chargers fans are not going to be happy with that one, Ralph, but I can't say I disagree. The man with the pen at CalSportsLV on Twitter. Do not forget to check out his homepage, wt.buzz/RM. Ralph, we're going to let you go because it is time to see Andy Lang for some prop shop. There's my guy, fresh off a 3-0 week. You know, I got a favor to ask you guys. I feel like Andy doesn't get any love in the comment section. I get love, I get hate. Some of the other guys get some love, some hate, but Andy gets nothing. So I'm going to axe this segment if you guys don't start showing Andy some love, or at least on Twitter at Bump Sports. Andy, what do you got for Thursday Night Football?
Oh, man. So there's a lot of question marks with the Bears offense. So we don't have a ton of props, but I will tell you this plus 180 on Bryce Young over 1.5 passing touchdowns has my attention. Now, this is a hold your nose and hold your breath type of prop because Bryce Young has only thrown for multiple touchdowns in one game. But if he's going to do it, it's got to be against this bad Bears passing defense. Bears give up 257 yards passing per game. Kelly, they've given up a league high 20 touchdown passes, but only 4 rushing touchdowns. You score on the Bears by passing the ball. The Panthers only have 2 rushing touchdowns this year and 10 passing touchdowns. Derek Carr had 2 in the first half last week. Justin Herbert had 3 passing touchdowns against them. This entire game is garbage time, so I don't want to say let's wait for garbage time because on opening kickoff, you're immediately in garbage time with this game. But I think the Panthers are going to be able to move the ball through the air. Give me Bryce Young at a plus 180 to throw over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
And I didn't pick the grossest game on the board, but I didn't pick the best game for my best bet. Broncos at the Bills. Andy, who do you got from the prop side of things?
Oh, I'm with you. I think this is a very interesting game. Give me the Bills under 28.5 on their team total here. So this Bills team, they've gone under in 5 games in a row. And the Broncos' last 3 games, they've been getting better on defense, giving up 19 and 24 to Kansas City, 17 to Green Bay. And we got a couple stats that are saying that the Broncos are moving in one direction, the Bills the other direction. So you have Buffalo. They're the 5th best scoring team per game this season, but the last 3 games, they're 13th. They're getting worse. Bills number 3 for the season in red zone conversion. Last 3 games, 15th. They're getting worse. Now let's take a look at the Broncos. For the season, last in yards per play allowed, but over the last 3 games, 20th. They're getting better. Broncos last in rushing yards per game allowed, but over the last 3, 17th. They're getting better. 26th in the league in passing yards allowed per game, but over the last 3, 18th. They're getting better. You're seeing this Broncos defense improve as the season goes on. You're seeing this Bills team kind of getting a little bit worse. So many injuries on defense that their offense is not holding the ball as much. The opposing team's offense is holding the ball more and moving up and down the field. I like your best bet this week. I think this is a fairly low-scoring game, and I would love to take the under on the Buffalo Bills, under 28.5.
All right, now for your best bet, it's a little bit better of a game. Let's break it down here on why you like Alvin Kamara this week.
So we're staying away from his rushing total, and we're just going to go right to his receiving total. There are some advanced stats that show he's losing some touches, definitely losing touches to Taysom Hill last week. Williams is getting some more looks, but his receiving seems to be, that's his role. Had 4 more catches in 4 straight games, 91, 51, and 41 receiving in the last 3 games. He's had a reception of at least 17 yards or more in those 3 straight games. And the Vikings, when you look at their stats, they are the 3rd best in receiving yards allowed to running backs. They haven't played that many great receiving running backs. They played the Chargers, but that was a game Austin Eckler was out. The last great running back in receiving they played was Christian McCaffrey. He had 45 yards against them. 2 games ago, A.J. Dillon went over this total in receiving. So it's a good spot for Kamara. He may be losing touches in the running game, but it looks like his targets and his receptions and his yards are pretty concrete. Give me Kamara to go over his receiving yards one more time.
Oh, boy. Let's see how that one plays out, Andy, because I asked these guys to give you all the love in the comments section. And if, well, you don't go 3-0, we know what's going to happen. Make sure you guys head over to the Wager Talk Instagram page where Andy puts up all sorts of free prop bets for you guys, as well as on his Twitter page at Bump Sports. See you later, Andy. You guys hear that? Oh, Joe, not again.
Well, Cal, in this particular situation this week, right, here we go, week 10, I am usually pretty high. And unfortunately, with this week, I am not high enough, given the fact that the Houston Texans and the Cincinnati Bengals are getting ready to do battle this week. And if it's the one thing I can tell you about Cincinnati, it feels like it's been rinse and repeat with them over the last couple of years. They start in the month of September slow. They got some injuries. Burrow's not the same guy. He had the calf injury this year. You know, he's never really started the season 100% healthy yet, I don't believe, in his short career. But the one thing that we know is that come October into November, this is a different Joe Burrow, and this is a different Cincinnati Bengals team, and we're already starting to see that transformation, and it starts with Joe Burrow's mobility, and it also, just look at the numbers over the last couple of games here with Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. They're not running nearly as much as they have in years past, but they are certainly throwing the ball more, and now they're starting to throw it downfield more. Nobody right now over the last 3 weeks has had more non-third downs, meaning they get first down, they get another first down, or they get the second down, then it's another first down. Nobody over the last month has had fewer third downs than the Cincinnati Bengals. Why? Because they're moving it right on down the field. And when it comes to Houston, that defense up there has been really good against the run, but they have not been good against the pass. And what they're about to walk into in Cincinnati is a Cincinnati Bengal and Joe Burrow team that is really starting to come into their own, especially throwing the ball. And Houston is coming off of what? An epic performance by C.J. Stroud, over 400 yards. And while, yes, that was the Tampa Bay Bucs defense, and Lou Anarumo's a different animal, and I get that, but they have some issues in that secondary, Cincinnati, that Buffalo, unfortunately, kept shooting themselves in the foot and take advantage of some of those deficiencies. I don't think that's going to be a problem here. I think Houston's going to be able to get some points on the board, but what I really think is going to happen here is another one of those steps in the progression of Joe Burrow and this offense taking it to another level. I fully anticipate there is 30 points being scored in this game or more by the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't need a lot out of Houston in order to get this thing up and over. It opened up at 46 and a half. It's up to 48 now. And I think 50 is the magic number in this one here. It's not high enough, not with the way Cincinnati is playing, and not in this matchup, because I think they're going to drop a big old can of whoop ass on this Houston team here. And that means points, and more points, Cal.
Oh, Marco D'Angelo might have something to say about that can of whoop ass, because the deli's open and it just so happens to feature the exact same game.
We got a sandwich spot here, and I'll tell you what, I said it during the break. I'm hungry, and this sandwich is going to make me even hungrier because we got a lot of juicy meat to put on this one. I'm looking at this one, and I know Cincinnati's playing well, and they've won, 4 in a row now? Cincinnati, but let's be honest about the winning streak. They played Arizona, okay? We know all the trouble that Arizona's had this year. Then they played one of the most Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde teams in the NFL this season, Seattle. You never know which team's going to show up. Then they beat San Francisco, and that's when we all said, hey, Cincinnati's back. But the fact is, they had 2 weeks to prepare for San Francisco, and San Francisco was in the middle of that 3-game losing streak. A lot of injuries. That wasn't the same San Francisco 49er team that we saw earlier in the year. But last week, they played Buffalo. Yes, that was a satisfying win. The rivalry that has come about with Cincinnati and Buffalo because of the Monday night game last year, playoff games the last few years, that was a big game. Now they're taking on Houston, and they shouldn't look past Houston because they are a young and exciting team, and that's all because of C.J. Stroud. And by the way, if you're holding an Rookie of the Year future on C.J. Stroud, unless he gets hurt, he can head to the window because I think he just sewed it up last week for Rookie of the Year. But what I'm looking at with this one is look who Cincinnati has next. They're coming off that Sunday night football game against Buffalo, and they've got their arch rival, Baltimore, on deck. Baltimore's the team that they're chasing. That's the team that's dominated the division the last several years. They're playing them. That in itself makes this the perfect sandwich spot. You want to make it a little bit better? How about that sandwich is coming back in 4 days? That's the Thursday night game. We don't get to complain next week about an ugly Thursday night game. We get Baltimore and Cincinnati. The goal for Cincinnati is to get in this game, get in, get out, no injuries. And yes, they're going to score points because Houston's defense is not good. But guess what? The Houston offense is pretty darn good, and they're going to score points in this one. I agree with Joe on the over, but what I like even better is give me that touchdown and Houston. That is my sandwich. Go ahead, take a big old bite of this one. I love it. Take Houston plus the points.
All right, Mark, I'm going to kick it right back to you because, well, you gave me one dog you think can win outright. Now I need another.
All right. Yeah, I know. I'm going to hear it from Joe. I got a little small dog, and I can live with that. It's okay. We're going to go with the Green Bay Packers. And if you've been following the show the last few weeks, I've been zigging and I've been zagging. Well, we've been zigging and zagging right, going with it against Pittsburgh. 2 weeks ago, we went with Jacksonville against Pittsburgh, got the money. Last week on Thursday night, we went with Pittsburgh. It's a little tense there at the end, but we got the money. Where are we going this week? We're going against them. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers, and why wouldn't I? I can't lay points with my Steelers. They're 5-3. They've played 8 games, but guys, they have been outgained all year long, all 8 games. How can you lay points with a team constantly being outgained? Last week, if they said it one time, they said it 100 times. They made such a big deal about the offense looking sharper and doing better last week. Matt Canada was down on the sidelines. First time in his career calling the game from the sidelines. Yeah, I think the move for that was Tomlin wanted him, in case he couldn't hear it real well up in the booth, he could hear it on the field when the crowd was chanting fire Matt Canada. But the difference last week for the Steelers, and I said it when we broke the game down, the offensive running game for the Steelers was non-existent this year. They struggled. And anytime your running game doesn't work, it's going to make your quarterback look worse. You get the running game going, it's going to help the quarterback. And I said last week they should have success running the football because Tennessee was having trouble stopping the run. What happened? The Steelers ran for 160 yards last week, and that opened up some of the passing lanes for Kenny Pickett. This week, that's not the case. Green Bay, believe it or not, has the 6th defense this year in yards per play, and they can shut down the run. It's going to make it tougher for the Steelers. And for the Steelers, throw in another little wrinkle for the Steelers. They're coming off the Thursday night game. Big win for them. Prime time. Look who they have on deck. They got Cleveland, their second biggest rival. I don't like the spot for the Steelers. I'm not sold on the Steeler offense. I'm not a homer. You guys know that. I go against them as much as I go with them, and this is one of those spots. I'm going against them. You give me Green Bay plus the points in this one. and it's getting a field goal or more, yeah, I'm there all day long. And, Pittsburgh laying points, depending on where this line, if it does, come back down and dips below 3, guess what? We got teasers with Green Bay too. Take Packers, do a little sprinkle.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get that one for the teaser option, Marco. No Minka Fitzpatrick, no Cole Holcomb on this defense. Steelers been outgained in every single game this year, yet they're still winning. Something's got to give eventually, Joe. Do I want to take Jordan Love and the Packers? It is scary, but I have to agree with Marco there. All right, how big is your dog this week, Joe?
Well, Matt Canada. Don't forget, Marco. It's always Matt Canada's fault. Listen, I think we're on par here. I think if we stretch this thing out here, Marco, you and I were on level footing with this week's dog, simply because I am going to go contrarian. And I am going to go, you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody wanting to back the Patriots across the pond here. Well, I do, because the same reasons apply. The reason I did like Carolina last week in that spot against Indianapolis was simply because it's Gardner Minshew, guys. And now Gardner Minshew, who is a nice backup quarterback for a game or two, has been thrust into the starter's role. And if you haven't noticed over the last month, yeah, he's starting to turn into that pumpkin that he really is. Now, do not let the score fool you. 27-13 last week for Indianapolis. And I keep hearing about, they're the only team scoring at least 20 points a game. Yeah, okay. They had 195 total yards in that game. But, what about Taylor? What about the run? Yeah, 3.5 yards per carry is what they had. They could not run. If it wasn't for Bryce Young playing for the Colts last week, this team not only would have lost that game, they wouldn't be impressing anybody offensively. Now they got to take on Belichick and a pissed-off Patriots team, who quite honestly does not have to be great in order to win this game over there against a very suspect and now injured secondary again for the Indianapolis Colts. I think the one thing that'll help cure Mac Jones in a hurry, along with Ramondre Stevenson here, who really started to feel it last week. Finally, we started to get some of those explosive running plays from Green Bay. Ultimately, they fell just short at home against Washington. But this is a fired-up Patriots team that's been there and done this across the pond before. Belichick, I can promise you, will make it so Gardner Minshew is the one who has to try to beat them. It won't be the running backs. And I think that spells disaster for the Colts here. I think Indianapolis, wrong team, is favored here with Indy. I'll take as many points as you want as the Patriots win this game outright, or at the very least, put them in a couple of teasers as well.
All right, you guys are on a timeout for a little bit because it is time to bet with Las Vegas Cris. And you too can bet with LVC the rest of 2023 for just over $7 a day. Since the beginning of 2022 for professional sports bettor Las Vegas Cris has picked up almost 119 units in profit for his clients. And for a limited time, you can bet right alongside him for just $7 a day with the rest of the year promotion. For $3.99, you get access to every single release across all sports, including any 5% best bets from Chris. That does also include all of his college football selections for the remainder of 2023, where he is number one in profit since 2020, hitting 57% over 578 games. That's right, LVC69 is your promo code. All right, Chris, what do you have for us?
Well, it's week 10 NFL, and I've got some good information for you. I'm going to give you a very interesting angle of the day at the end, and it's very surprising. Looking back at last week, I suggested Cleveland and New Orleans as a key teaser in that one. I also suggested looking at Tennessee and Miami earlier. They won. Going into Dallas, that one, and possibly the Jets. But I also did mention, even though that Jets lost, that if you did do it that many times, you'd be getting plus 320, and you would have a plethora of options to hedge that and make sure you didn't lose money and you would guarantee yourself a profit. So job well done there. This week, I promised last week that I was going to tell you what I do when I'm stuck with a bad line. Now, this isn't something that you would do unless you're just absolutely in an emergency and you have no other choice. Let's just say what happened to me this week happened to you. I'll just change the circumstances a bit, but I bought Seattle -6 by mistake earlier this week. So what am I going to do? Well, this week it's not a problem because it's 6.5. But what happens if that line goes down to 4.5? What do? Let's just say you accidentally bet it or you don't want it, whatever the reason, you want off of it. The line is 4.5. What I'm going to do to get out of that mess is I'm going to look ahead and see what game I plan on betting that is after this Seattle game. So let's just say I'm betting the Monday night game. So what I'm going to do is, let's just say Seattle is 4.5 and I'm holding -6. I would take Washington up to the 10.5 in a teaser, and I would make the second leg that Buffalo on Monday night. So if you win the original bet, -6, no harm, no foul. You didn't lose money. You don't care that the teaser lost. All you were trying to do was get off of that one bet. Now, if the Seattle wins by 7, 8, 9, 10, well, now both are going. You won the -6, and you can win with that Buffalo. So the problem you have, though, is if that Seattle -6 loses, well, now you need to win that teaser to get your money back. But that was a game that you were going to bet anyway, and you have 6 points extra to play with it. So this isn't optimal. This is an emergency strategy that you can use. I use it all the time with totals. It gets a lot more sophisticated if you're throwing in 10-pointers and you're adding extra teams and stuff. But that's the simplest way. And again, it's just an emergency bailout. This angle of the day is very interesting. I was wondering why my choppy results were coming from, or how they were coming from. And I found some very interesting things. This year, underdogs are covering at 49%, which is unheard of. It's usually in the mid-50s. Big swing there. Now, underdogs of more than 3, covering at even a lower rate. Not only that, the average margin of score is much higher this year. I think it was over 12%. Last year, the year before, I remember seeing 8.5%, 9%. That's a huge, huge difference. We know the totals, the unders, are hitting at 62%. This season's results haven't been seen in like 20 years. There's a lot of moving parts going, and I'm looking for some of this stuff to flip around. One thing that has been very odd, let's take a look at Detroit and the Chargers, okay? Chargers are +3 at home. Now, last week, I didn't want anything to do with a bunch of teams that I had to take +3 on or +2.5 on. I just said, I'm not doing it anymore. Sure enough, my strategy worked. I'm only doing teasers in these situations, and I'm going to explain why. Tennessee switched from a loser to a winner in a teaser. Dallas, a loser to a winner in a teaser. Buffalo, a loser to a winner. So my model sucked last week. I would have been 3-6, but because I chose not to play any of those games straight, I turned those losers into winners. And here's the reason why. Home underdogs. You think they're a great value? They're hitting at 49%. They're a loser to take home underdogs. Let's isolate that one step further to 2020 to current. Can you believe home underdogs of 3 are hitting at 42.9%? 42.9%. That's why teasers can be an excellent alternative. 7-point teaser up to 10. Now that's no, great shakes positive EV teaser leg. It's marginal at best, but it's certainly better than just taking the +3 home underdog if you're looking at recent results. So I'll leave you guys with one play. Baltimore, Seattle, money line instead of a teaser. Remember, they're both -6. You could tease those down to pick, but -250, -260, I only lay minus 106 instead of minus 110, 120, 125. Now, I told you guys previously that 3 and 14 teasers are better to play than a minus 120 teaser. And this will show you how. On the parlay I just gave you, I'm laying minus 106, so I'm way ahead of the game. But once you add in a Buffalo, a third team, I can get plus 149 on that, which is really good. I don't have to lay minus 1.5 or minus 2. So that's excellent. But remember, if you don't want that Buffalo, if you don't want to get that down to pick, 3-team teasers pay plus 160, a higher pay. So think about it that way. So the original parlay was better than the 2-team teaser, but it's not quite as good as that plus 160 you can get on a 3-team teaser. So that's all I have this week. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you to Chris. He is always a wealth of knowledge here on Bet On It. We're going to pivot right over to that gold that you guys request each and every single week. Time for Ace, our number 2 out of 30 handicappers, who is up 158 units in 2023. We're going to give you an all-access pass for just $69 using code ACE69. That is less than $10 per day. And if you get his week pass this week, you get all access to the Steam Room on Sunday. Now, we normally don't do that, but it is a special invite for Bet On It viewers. ACE69 is the promo code to get VR for all week long. VR, the gold has been cashing. What do you have for NFL Week 11?
Thanks, guys. I got a little bit of NFL gold, not a ton this week. But remember, quality over quantity. Well, you got to do your part too. Check out where the line's open, see how the market reacted to this stuff, and conclude whether you're bent from a position of strength or a position of weakness. Sometimes there'll be middle attempts. Sometimes there'll be manipulation. But more times than not, you do enough price action homework, you could figure that stuff out. So let's get going. Start off on primetime Thursday night football. Points are for pussies. Because you know what we did? Money line. First half only, though. Carolina, plus 150. First half only over the Bears. You want to take the points if risk tolerance isn't as high. But we only bet the money line so far. Move on to Sunday's action. Let's knock these totals out of the way. San Francisco, Jacksonville, under 46. Cleveland, Baltimore, over 38. Green Bay, Pittsburgh, over 38. Houston, Cincinnati, under 48. That's one of those where I saw overaction earlier in the week. Not through me. Again, I'm not the only one moving for these groups, and that 1%, less than 1%, that actually wins long term. So a lot of times, they'll take side A with one guy, side B with the other, and a lot of times it's just different groups. Putting in plus EV bets, different numbers. One went over 44, one went under 48, both to be plus EV. Move down to Atlanta and Arizona, over 43, over 45, over 44. Looks like a lot of points expected there. Couple signs for you also. San Francisco 49ers, no team finder, money line action, and -3. A little more on the money line because I think it was a little bit low based on the point spread, but then the -3 started coming in. Cleveland, like that Cleveland side, catching 6 against Baltimore, dropped down to the New York Jets primetime game site. Jets at a pick'em, Jets at -1 on the road, and finally Tampa Bay Buccaneers at a pick'em and -1 against the Tennessee Titans. Whether you follow, fade, or ignore, I want you to cash them, not to trash them. I don't piggyback everything. I narrowed down those moves that I think still offer me the most advantageous bets. You do the same, you'll just do just fine. Smash that like button, leave some comment, and let me know how I can help, what more I can share. Best of luck this weekend.
As always, thank you to VR at Greek_Gambler. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow on social media. And you guys know what that means. We got to wrap up the show, and that includes giving our best bets for NFL Week 11. Now, we spoke about the Bills and Broncos in prime time, and I said, hey, I think the Bills are in an excellent spot for a teaser. And Marco came back and said, hey, guess what, Kelly? That means you're going to take the plus 7.5. Well, good luck on that, because this is gross. And I am so sorry. And as a Broncos fan, it pains me even more. But this isn't a play on the Denver Broncos, who is coming off their bye week. A little bit of momentum over victories against the Chiefs and the Packers. This is a play against the Buffalo Bills and what their former shell of a defense is doing. They are just 2-3 in their last 5 games. All 5 of those games within a 6-point margin. The injuries, they are starting to rack up, especially on the defensive side of the ball. As I mentioned, I don't want to back Russell Wilson here, but I think we have a beautiful Monday night middle that is Buffalo, by a field goal. Broncos keep it within a touchdown. You love to see it. Marco D'Angelo, little belated birthday boy. Make sure you guys jump in the comment section and give him some love, because I don't see enough Marco love in there. I also don't see enough Russell Wilson love in there, and hopefully we can give him some love on Tuesday morning. Marco D'Angelo, what do you got for us this week over at Wager Talk?
Well, Kelly, we're doing a special this week. Yeah, it's my birthday, and thank you. And thank all the people on Twitter and stuff that have wished me a happy birthday. So we're giving you guys a special deal. It's Marco's birthday bash. You get 7 days. Normally, $99 for 7 days. All access, all sports. You're going to get it for just $62. Why? Because it's my birthday, and that's how old I am. So we're going to give it to you for $62. Guess what? Next year, it'll be $63. So jump in while you can save $1 right now. And head over to, if you haven't watched the College Bet On It show, guys, head over there. We're going for our 10th college football best bet in a row. Check out the college show. Don't leave the winners on the table. Kelly, Joe, me, we've been hot with the best bets. Join us over there. Now, for this week, guys, we're going to go to a game that's going to get a lot of attention this week because both teams are coming off bye weeks. San Francisco went into the bye week cold. They lost 3 in a row. Jacksonville went into the bye week hot. They won 5 in a row. Well, if you know me and watched any of the shows, you know how I feel about the bye weeks. If you go into the bye week on a roll, it's a momentum stopper. Can't go into the bye week any hotter than winning 5 in a row. So that's a concern for me with Jacksonville. For San Francisco, man, it was an ugly 3-game stretch for them. A lot of injuries took their toll on the 49ers, turnovers, so forth. They're going to use that 2 weeks, 1, to get a little bit healthier, and 2, to rectify what went wrong. Get rid of what wasn't working, add some new wrinkles, and enhance what was working. And I expect a big performance from the 49ers. But let's look at Jacksonville and look at that 5-game winning streak. Is it really that impressive? The 5 wins came over Atlanta, Indianapolis, the Saints, and Pittsburgh. Not exactly juggernauts in the NFL. But you're going to say, but Marco, they did beat Buffalo. Well, we've been bashing Buffalo here on the show this week in the way they're playing lately. And I also want to point out when they played Buffalo, that was over in London. Jacksonville was there for the 2nd week in a row, so they had a huge advantage as far as the travel. And game situation-wise, when they played Buffalo, Buffalo was coming off their must-win, live-or-die game when they played Miami the week before. If you remember, Buffalo had to win that game or they would have found themselves early in the season, literally 3 games behind the Miami Dolphins because Miami would have owned the tiebreaker. That was a big game the week before. They caught them in a perfect spot. I don't think Jacksonville is as good as that 5-game winning streak indicates. I think you see the real 49ers this week, and there's no question the 49ers have the better defense. They're going to slow down Jacksonville, and I look for Brock Purdy and company to get the job done. I'm going with San Francisco. I'm laying the 3 points. I've got them winning 27-17. Go 49ers for my best bet in the NFL.
You've been a road chalk eating weasel a couple weeks in a row now, and it's been working out well for you, Marco, so I might have to join you there on the 49ers. Joe Raineri, give us your best bet.
Well, it's I was tossing back and forth between whether or not I was looking at one half of this leg for teaser opportunities or if I wanted the under in this matchup. And you guys can decide for yourself because I like them both. But I'm going to talk about the total in this Saints and Vikings game. It's down to 41, I believe, right now, holding steady there. And let's face it, the Vikings, unbelievable job so far this year. You bring Dobbs in off the street, and you somehow manage to get done against Atlanta. And yes, I mean, great win. Atlanta got to take a long look in the mirror, but that's a different conversation. The thing that I like most about what this Vikings team has done is I think they have gotten, even with all the variance on the offensive side, I love, and I guess this shouldn't be all that surprising, that this Minnesota defense was supposed to be the weakest part of the team all season long. And yet, they are the one part of this team that continues to get better, and better each and every week. And it shouldn't shock you, given who the defensive coordinator is for this Vikings team. He did it with Pittsburgh last year. He had a hand in it. He did it when he was the head coach here at Miami. And he's doing it with this Minnesota Vikings defense here. The problem is he's going to be going up against a Saints team that just cannot put teams away. Why the Bears were even remotely in that game late has a lot to do with the fact that the New Orleans Saints just refuse to have nice things with Derek Carr as their quarterback here. And I think they're going to have a lot of problems offensively, even more so against this Minnesota defense. Listen, I'm not expecting Dobbs to run up and down the field on this Saints defense. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is going to be a ugly game, a slugfest that ultimately is going to end up 21-14, somewhere in that ballpark there. I do think Minnesota might be worth a look-see in possible teaser opportunities as well. But I'm going to opt for the show. I'm going to go with the under. I trust the defenses on both of these teams more than I trust the offenses. I think this is going to be one hell of an ugly game, but I'm going to look at the under in this one.
All right, Joe, with all the unders, except for, well, that one that is too high. Let's throw up that recap graphic. Again, don't forget to jump in the comment section. Tell us you love us. Tell us you hate us. Tell us what we can do better. And tell us what you love. There it is. Love you guys so much. Shout out to our producers. Go Birds. All jokes aside, thank you guys for hanging out with us every single Wednesday evening here on Bet On It. From Marco, Joe, Ralph, Andy, Chris, VR, and myself. We'll catch you guys next week, and let's hope we cash some tickets in the interim. Until then, let's bet on it.